Have you ever felt like you're improvising on the guitar doesn't feel like it's going anywhere and that you're just kind of regurgitating or babbling information? Well, lucky for you, that's what today's video is all about, is getting to the root of that problem and fixing it. The wonderful thing about this concept as well is that you can apply it to music that you're writing as well as your improvisation. I tend to think of the two as being very, very much correlated, in that improvising is like fast, spontaneous composing, and composing is slow and deliberate improvising. But the biggest kind of problem I see with my students, and one of the things that I'll always have them kind of think about when the subject of improvising comes up, is changing a little bit the way that your mindset works to things. Because a lot of the time what might happen is, say we're looking at a backing track and let's say it's in A minor. And we might start out with this idea that, okay, you can play any note in the A minor pentatonic scale, which again, I'm using this as an example because that's a scale that we all probably know pretty well, at least this one shape of it. But so in that minor pentatonic box, what my students will tend to do is they might have a couple good ideas, and again, they're playing in front of their teacher, so that can be stressful. But it maybe starts out okay, and then the longer and longer they go, they end up just kind of vomiting, just kind of spitting out notes that are in the scale. And this, I think, stems from kind of a misunderstanding of how one should go about improvising. Because we always talk about, and I always talk about, knowing, your scales, your arpeggios, and how you can apply those. But what I think a lot of students miss, a lot of intermediate guitarists when they go to improvise, is that the goal is to be creating nice melodies that sound good and have a flow to them, rather than just vomiting the A minor pentatonic scale, or whatever scale it might be. So that's the fundamental flaw in thinking I see a lot of the time, is when you feel like you're kind of running out of ideas, we all tend to devoid into this problem where we try to almost reverse engineer it. Rather than thinking, what's the next beautiful melody I'm going to play? We go, oh my god, I'm playing A minor, I don't know what's coming up next, what am I going to do? And then we end up just playing boring scale runs that don't really go anywhere. So just to give you a kind of example of what that might feel like, let me just set up a cheeky little loop. So, if I were to solo over this, like, an intermediate guitarist who's working on their improv skills, I might sound something like this. That's a nice little melody. Then I go, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. Again, all of those notes technically work, but it doesn't sound that great because there's no continuity to it. There's no ideas, and I'm just kind of playing notes from the scale at you, or at the backing track I'm playing along to, or whatever you might be improvising over. So one of the big things that I get my students to try is think about almost like call and response, where you want to be listening to yourself play rather than thinking, oh my god, I have to play A minor, what am I going to do, what am I going to do? What you want to do is you want to think ahead and try to hear what logically comes next. So an example of that might be, so that, again, I had a little line, da, na, 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 and I played a note that's outside of the pentatonic scale, but it's in the A minor scale, so it's legal. And I went, da, na, 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 da, na, na, da, na, 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 or whatever I played, where it's a similar idea and it goes down. So that's an example of kind of a call and response type thing. But really, the trick is trying to tap into that awesome guitarist in our heads. I always joke with my students that, even as a professional musician, the guitar that I hear myself playing in here tends to be better than what actually comes out of my guitar. But you're trying to listen ahead to what the melody sounds like, what the next little bit of your phrase could sound like. And this is, again, I think the big thing that people miss is we try to just cram all of this stuff that we've practiced and that we know can work over this A minor, and that actually kills our improvisation because we aren't improvising things that are nice to listen to. We're almost treating it like it's a math problem, and we don't want to do that when we improvise, because music tends to sound best when it's a bit of an emotional expression rather than a mathematical expression. So let me hit play on my little backing track again, and I'll try to do that again for you so you can hear a kind of a different example. So I'm going to play over the backing track again, and I looped 2 of these chord progressions that goes A minor, then it goes C, then E, and the first time through, well, I'll just do it twice. So the first time I'll play over it like one of my students who is maybe in their first or second lesson with me talking about improvisation. And then the second time I'm going to play it again, and I'll do it with a little bit more care to detail so you can hopefully hear the difference again. So here's me playing like an intermediate guitarist trying to dip their toes into improvisation. And that actually wasn't too bad. There were some nice little changes in direction and stuff like that. But again, a lot of it was just me kind of plodding my way through the scale. Now here's me using the same A minor box, and I'm going to try to keep something going. So in my head, I'm trying to think as if I'm listening to a song on the radio or a song on Spotify, wherever you listen to music. And I want it to be the next satisfying answer to it. So I'm listening to my improvisation as if I was listening to one of my favorite guitarists. And what do I want to hear next, kind of thing. So again, I'll let this play one more time. I'll do the same thing. And there, of course, I played a couple more notes in it. But I hope you can kind of hear the difference between those 2 examples. And I just, again, wanted to make this video to talk about this kind of change in your thought process when you're improvising, but how you can think about what you're playing and how you should listen to yourself and try to play what comes next, rather than doing the approach of trying to just, slam out as many notes over whatever chord progression you're playing you can. Because when you try to reverse engineer like that, it really doesn't work a lot of the time, and it'll sound... If it doesn't sound bad, it'll sound boring and not very musical. I had a wonderful professor in university who once told me, it's an art, not a science. So the more you try to think about just cramming in all of this hip stuff that you might think you could play over A minor, trying to force it, you will most likely get significantly better and significantly more musical results if you just kind of listen to yourself as if you were listening to one of your favorite players. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It truly helps me out more than you could know. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to that down in the description. I've been working with a bunch of you from YouTube lately, and it's been super fun to connect with people all over the world. If you want to support me in the free educational videos that I put out every single week, you can subscribe to my Patreon, link to that in the description as well. There's 2 tiers that'll get you early access to videos, and if you go to the top tier, it'll get you an exclusive video once every month that is not on YouTube. It's exclusively for my patrons. If you also were interested in more educational content for me and supporting the channel, you can purchase either my ebook or my online course. Links to that in the description as well. And then last but not least, I've got new videos coming out every single week, so I hope I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar.